All right, now this is Mike here with the Amish and Mennonite of Tennessee page and the Amish of Etheridge page, okay? Now, what we're talking about in this particular web page is the new course that we just created called the Plainest Tennessee Road Trip. All right, so this is all about road trips. We're going to presuppose that here's some places that you've always wanted to go. There's some people that you think you might want to take. And you're toying with the idea of, should I go do that or not? Okay, this course is perfect for you. If you're one of those people, like every time I go on a road trip, I always have problem. That's why I'm never going to go on a road trip. This trip is also perfect for you. And it's just anybody in between those positions. This is going to do great. Now, I've been a tourism professional since 2010. I've used these basically the concepts and precepts that I'm going to talk about in this particular course I've been using personally and been perfecting the whole time. But it's taken me to 29 different states. It combines what they call an open jaw air flights. That means I flew in from an airport, rented a car, went on a road trip, and then flew out a different airport. Okay, so we're going to talk about that too, because some people are going to come here and see some places that they can't see just anywhere. So if you're from like Idaho or California or somewhere else, I don't know, even the states closest to us, I'm sorry, there's only one music city, and that's Nashville. There's only one rocket city in a way, and it's Huntsville, Alabama. So if you're going to see, say, for example, some of the studios and stuff, like in Fame Studio and all that sort of, you're going to have to go to Muscle Shoals. Well, Muscle Shoals is only like 30 miles or so from Etheridge, Tennessee, which is the largest Amish community in the South. Now, I made a whole course just to visiting Etheridge, okay? So we're not going to talk as much about Etheridge in this particular course, but it will be in there, okay? This is all about road trips. So I'm going to presuppose you kind of have some places that you always wanted to go and some people in mind, okay? So we're going to talk about how to kind of finalize on all those positions, on how to find points of interest along the way, all that kind of thing. Now, you're seeing me here sitting at this desk. That's true. Now, I do have an Amish hat and an Amish doll. They're faceless, all that sort of thing. Now, they'll be there, throughout the course. My hat and my shirt look different than other courses because when you're on a road trip, you want to be comfortable, okay? But yet at the same time, you want to be responsible. If you get out here and you're standing around talking a long time and you find that wonderful little crease in your hair is sunburnt like crazy. Oh, it's going to be so difficult to continue your road trip with. Also, your shirts need to be kind of comfortable, but at the same time, classy enough to get you in some places. All right, so we're going to talk a lot about methodology, ideology, as far as ideating the places conceptually you would like to go, having a criteria by which you judged places. Because keep in mind, if you just took all of these places and just stuck them on your itinerary, you would need like 7 months to do all of it. So let's kind of whittle things down a little bit. So we're also going to take you through some of the plain communities and some of the Mennonite stores that you're going to make, along the way, so that between points of interest, you might be able to see all of them. Maybe you're the kind of person that wants to just take this course because you want to see all the different communities, and that's fine too. You are an Amish adventurer if that's you. So I'm going to let that place be up to you. And if you don't know what place, fine. That's okay. I talk about in here how to go about finding things, road trip apps, all that sort of thing. So what we're going to do at the very end of the course is going to be chronicling your vacation. So I'm going to go everything from ideation, using your brain, to logistical planning, which is using where to put your feet, you know what I mean, nailing everything down, So like if you're looking at a hotel with this thing, it's not like being asleep in the hotel in reality. So we're going to go through a lot of that section throughout the course. We're going to go to another module which talks about the people. We're going to cover this in just a second. But the very end of it's going to be how to chronicle your vacation. So even after you get back home, there's still a few things to do. And of course, a proper send off where I say goodbye. I would love for you to buy another one of our courses, all that sort of thing. And that would open up a different possibility. So let's go through some of the modules that we're going to talk about, okay? Now, the overall video that I did for this course is very, very long, but it's also very detailed, which will be the next thing you see after you purchase the course and you start in, okay? So I go through some of the same things a different way, I guess, if you will, because I'm adding to them, okay? Even if I'm blabbing, there's a reason why I do this. So we're going to go to the first module, what I called overview and directions. We're going to start talking about selecting your route and team, okay? We do not talk about the Amish and Mennonite people until module 4, okay? The reason I do this is because if you don't get these steps in place, it's not going to go well. For a lot of people, they do this. They go say, I want to go here. And it's like, what else? I don't know. I just want to go here. This is, and it's like a kid going, I want food. I want this. I want that. And it's a selfish person generally. So we want to kind of get through some of this, all right? We want to be adults about it. So we're going to really get a lot of this stuff planned out before we meet the Amish and Mennonite people. Does that make any sense? I hope it does. And it'll definitely make sense when you get into the actual course, because keep in mind, this is only the sales page, okay? So in module 1, I know that a lot of people don't know me. You might have followed me for a long time, but you don't really know me, okay? So in each course that I create, there's kind of the pie of what we call the mic, okay? And each pie is represented a little bit different. So when it comes to this road trip associated course, I talk about kind of what drives me as a person to make these, okay? Because I have to work for months on end with no money so that I can sell it at the end. So I'm not doing this for money. I'm doing it so that I can show you the way I take road trips now after years of being a tourism professional. Okay? So I go through the first part of introducing yourself to me first, because if you can't trust me, you can't learn from me, okay? And I want to make sure to handle that right off the bat, okay? So that you can start learning from your tour guide, if you will, okay? I go all through that. Now, the second part is all about you, okay? The second chapter is called the sheet music, and that's where we're going to kind of find out who we are and how we can kind of use that as a reminder to kind of figure out what kind of road trip we're going to get if this is the person leading the band, if you will. Some people are just very dialectical. We're going to go here to here to here to here. We're going to eat here. We're going to go sleep here. We're going to get up this time. And they're just like a drill sergeant. And you might be like, if we're going to do that, I'm not going to go, okay? It's like, why? And it's just like, how about I take the clipboard? All right. And we're gonna do this the right way, because some people, they won't stop. You can't hardly stop even if you're about to wet your pants. They just like, I got to go from here to here. That's all they know. Do this and that. And it's like, oh, please don't be that kind of person, because for a lot of you, you've ruined road trips for people because of your stiff rigidness. Okay, and then some people, they won't even go on another one because they know it's going to be like that. So how does a person who wants to go on a road trip able to go on one if they can find out their inner sheet music? Okay, it might just be that the person who does all this stuff here, he or she would be really good at packing the luggage, making sure everything gets back on the car. You see what I'm saying? They might be really excellent about that, or route making, but driving, being the sole orchestrator, you know what I mean? At the same time, some people are so loosey-goosey. They don't really care. We're not going to plan at all. We're just going to see what happens. And you'll need like 7 months and $1 million to can really do that version of that person's road trip, right? You know what I mean? So finding that inner sheet music, that sort of song and tempo and dance that makes you who you are, we need to figure that out. Because what I call a good road trip and what you call a good road trip might not be the same. So we need to solve for this X factor. Basically, it's like vocabulary algebra. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to start with that right off the bat. So to get that down, not to say that either one of them is bad, it's just that everybody needs to be on board if that's the case, okay? So we're going to talk about that, and that just get right off the bat. Just let's talk about it. Third lesson is called selecting your team and road trip etiquette, okay? Some people, even though you're best friends, you can't be on a road trip with them. You can meet them at breakfast at Denny's. You could talk about things, but you don't need to be in the road trip with, and you can just kind of tell who's that is. Or you need to sort of give them a certain task, and then all that sort of thing. Because a person that doesn't want to leave at all and one that doesn't want to ever come home again might not be the best road trip companions to take with you. All that sort of thing. So we're going to talk about that in that lesson. Of course, land this plane in the car is where I talk about the open jaw system. It may or may not apply to you. But just because you live in another state or time zone doesn't mean you can't do this kind of road trip in your area. So for a lot of people, this is a template they can use for all different road trips. It doesn't matter what, even if you never see a plane community, you can still buy this course and it work for you. Okay. So this isn't all about just visiting the Amish and Mennonite people. No, 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 no. This is going to be about taking a really good road trip from a guy who happens to be a tourism professional. I have a wife and a daughter who's 8. She's autistic. So we have to look for some things a little different than, say, most people, okay? So that's going to kind of go with it. Now, one of the ways we look is through, down in chapter 2, it says road trip tools. And that's where we're going to go through Road Trippers, Campendium, Google Earth, all the other Google suite of things, you know, if you will, like regular search, images, all that sort of thing. So we're going to go through some of these road trip tools and find out a little bit about our mapping systems. But once we find things, when I say put it on a map, what does that mean? Google My Maps? Google what? Google, and of course, pen and paper is also going to be very necessary. So in order to really find a route, we're going to take the next lesson, our Tennessee head in the clouds. And if you're in Iowa, if you're in California, if you're in Arizona, if you're in, I don't know, Louisiana, just put your state in that cloud, or if you're wanting to come here, you know, either way. But wherever you're at, you can do this. And what that is all about is the ideation. How do I find ideas of where to go? This is where park systems, if you're into nature, this is where cityscape stuff could be found, as far as if they have a visit site, kind of like some of our other websites. And you can sort of ideate what kind of experience you want to have on your road trip. So this is going to be how we come up with criteria by which, what do we search for? Because a lot of times it's needles and haystacks. I'm sorry, it's just the way it is. So what we're showing you in this is how do you ideate those plans. And then the next one, obviously, if your head is in the sky, then you need feet on the ground. How do you logistically make that part of your vacation? So if you're wanting to go party in downtown Nashville and you're going to be drinking, you need to be staying somewhere in downtown Nashville. Well, what does that look like? What kind of spread in the money do we need? What if there's a ball game? What if somebody's playing that night and the tickets or the hotels are 3 times more expensive? Well, you might need to plan on a different night. You know what I'm saying? The night before, or the 2 nights before, it might be like $200, or if you go the next on game night, it might be $600. So. Also, how many people are going to be staying in the room? If you can get everybody to stay in one room and just divide that one room amongst everybody, well, that's like $50 a person to stay in a $200 a night room. You know what I mean? And besides, you're going to be dancing all night and you're going to be tired. It's not going to matter, is it? So that's what I'm trying to say, is how you look at it, how you perceive your logistical plans is going to determine a lot on what you need to do. Now, the next one is called Route It Out Loud, and that's because of the Kiss song, Shout It Out Loud. I just basically changed it to parody the song. But we're going to let the route sort of start finding its its direction in this. And then you're going to have a quiz. I know a lot of people say, I hate quizzes, I hate tests. Why do you do this to me? Well, it's because you bought education. Come on, buddy. What I'm saying in the quiz, though, however, is different. It's not a score. What happens to get past people's, how do you say this? To get past people's fear of tests and all that stuff, I made it to where you don't really get a score much. You basically get the ability to click an answer. If it's right, fine, go to the next one. If it's not right, it gives you the right answer. That way you know what place areas that you need to study at. It's like, oh, well, I missed this. And you can either say it's not important to me, who cares, I just want to get on to the next lesson. You know what I mean? Or you can say at the end of it, take the quiz again. There's nothing wrong with that. You can get 100% then and share it with all your friends on Facebook or somewhere else. That's fine too. But I don't want you to think, well, if I don't pass, I can't make it. No, you're not going to fail. Okay? It can't really fail you. But it is a quiz nonetheless. But you have to get through the quiz to kind of find out what problem areas you have. So in Module 2, I talk about adding points of interest. The first lesson's all about having too many because that's going to waste your time. The second lesson in this particular chapter is going to be bring on the events, because keep in mind, some people's X factor is going to be seeing Taylor Swift. It's going to be going to Bonnaroo. It's going to be doing something that has an event with it, okay? You might see the Nashville Predators play hockey because you've never been to a hockey game. There might be some event that happens maybe once in a while, and you want to be able to get that event down, and you're going to plan your road trip around that event. So that's what we're going to talk about in that one. Divide and conquer is basically how do you dwindle down some of the places that probably shouldn't have never been on your map into only the best places. You know what I mean? So, and I'm not ruining any of this. I'm trying to get you interested or trying to tell you enough about it to where if you know it ain't for you, if you're listening to me saying, listen, I don't care about any of that. I'm probably not going to go. I'm probably never going to go. So you're not a good candidate for getting this particular course. But some of our other courses, you might be a really good candidate for. Okay? So be sure to check out some of our other courses. In Chapter 2, Module 2, this is where we start talking about auditioning your road trip characters. Say, for example, in the very first lesson in this particular chapter is who's driving this thing? Not just driving the car, who's driving the whole road trip? Who's making the final decisions, some of that? And I know a lot of people are like, well, I don't want people to tell me what to do. Yeah, but there's got to be some kind of leader of this band, if you will. So what we say is basically let one person the person that might have bought this course, right? And that really wants a really good road trip. And they have convinced their friends that might want to go. So you ask 8 people, then you get 3 dedicated. That means there's 4 of you with you included. So that put together a perfect team. So we know that person who asked the other 3 is the one who's leading the pack. And you're going to say, you're a really good driver, or I'm a really good driver, or you're a really good packer. So your job is to make sure everything that leaves the car gets back on the car. So we don't leave a suitcase in some hotel. The second person might be really good at navigating. So while somebody's driving, they don't need to be doing this. This kills everybody in the car. You don't need to do that. You need to be looking. Your navigators behind you can all have their video or their cameras out, and they could be on Waze. The other one could be on a weather app. The other one could be on something else. Say, for example, making sure that restaurant they really wanted to go to for breakfast didn't have a water main break and is not open when you get there. You know what I mean? So the other 3 of you could be having jobs making sure that the whole package goes to the next location the best way it can through the whole trip. And if you get tired of driving, you know what I'm saying? Well, that's why we talk about in the next chapter, to rent or not to rent. And I'm going to spoil this one. I always recommend you rent a car. Why? Because if you come out one day and there's no car there but busted glass, the cops generally aren't as enthusiastic about working your stolen vehicle. But when there's a company who does nothing but give out rented vehicles, there's going to be somebody on the phone, and they're going to be mad. And there's probably a chip in that vehicle, and they're going to be yelling at some police sergeant there locally once you call them and tell them what happened. And they're going to be like, get a car to, 1417 Woodmont, because the car is in the back lot of this address, because they're looking at a map where their car was stolen and taken. You see what I'm saying? And they're going to be like, just get a car down there. Get Henry. Henry's that's his area. Just get him down there. Tell him to go to this address and see if that car is parked behind this street. You could probably see it from Woodmont right behind. They're going to be having this chatter go on. They're going to get you a car back. And a guy who rents, or a girl who rents cars for a living, is going to make sure you get a rental in return. They're going to get on the phone with another rental car company and work out some kind of deal, even if they have to lose money on it. And you're going to come back, and there'll be a car. You might not have any luggage, but you're going to get a way home or a way to finish out your road trip. Now, of course, if you're coming back from the hotel, you're probably carrying your luggage. It's probably fine. But anyway, there's been so many times that's happened. So I'm always going to say rent the car. Just rent it. Everybody can drive it. Everybody has to sign for it. You can divide it up and just put it into the amount of money you'll need for your road trip. Now, if you're really, if money is a problem, because it is, a lot of places, a lot of us don't have infinite funds, and you do rent or have your own car, and I don't know, you're so poor that you just need to sleep in it, I'm not having any judgments at you at all, okay? Even if you have to sort of take a single burger meal and split it between the four of you, if you're just saying, I'm going to make this happen no matter what, go for it. You know what I mean? You can still get this course to work out for you. Of course, the next time is, our next lesson is things that go bump. That's when cars have a problem out on the road. I tackle just about every kind of issue that can happen out on the road. You know what I mean? So we're going to move on after that quiz to Module 3. And this is where I call putting it all together. Basically, you've had the ideation of who it needs to be involved. That's personnel. The second is how do we find some criteria by which we would say that this road trip needs to go in. So if you're going to be starting in Memphis and you want to go to Bristol, what routes do we need to take in order to go see the things that are interesting to us and get back? You know what I'm saying? This is where this is kind of coming, and we're going to start putting all this together. Before this, we have ingredients for cake. We don't have a final cake yet, I guess is the best, maybe a good way to say it. So we're going to talk about wants, desires, and expectations. The first thing we're going to do is go back to the ideation stuff of creating my highlight reel. That one is a little bit conceptual. You just have to take that lesson to understand it. Okay, so we're going to skip to the next one where we talk about time management. I think we all agree that if you have more time, you can see more stuff. If you have less time, well, the places you do need to stop need to be very important. If you've only got one day, you went on a day trip. You see what I'm saying? So you didn't really go on a road trip. You just took your car to a day trip. So we're going to presuppose that you know what kind of time allotment you're going to have, and that's going to vary by person, all right? And then we're going to talk about dealing with the externalities. I tell a story about being on a highway that we look up ahead of us, and sure enough, they're blocking the road. Some high political figure had landed in Nashville, and 2 cops are parked, and the people are outside, and they got nothing to do but wait until the right person goes in their motorcade just down the street. And of course, even afterwards, they're not going to just let you follow the people you weren't supposed to be around. So they keep it blocked for a long time. Now, that was not on our list of things to do that day, and obviously they weren't going anywhere anytime soon. So we just kind of did a U-turn. We got on Waze. We hit the next road. We turned down the other road. Now, of course, it was crowded because a lot of people had seen what was going on. We read on ways that they closed the road and interstate for a particular politician. So whenever we could, we just did a U-turn and got out of there in the nick of time so that we could get around all of it. And of course, we didn't get to go to some of our places because it was one of those things we just had to kind of cut. Okay, that's just going to happen. All that sort of thing. That's just part of being on the road trip. Another thing about being part of a road trip, it might rain, it might snow, depending on when you go, right? So we talk about weather. Now, not just weather like snow and rain. We talk about hot and cold. Sometimes the heat here, especially in the Smoky Mountains, it can get to the point it will just pretty well take your life if you're not careful. Okay, it gets so hot and so muggy in certain places that it could be really dangerous, okay? Especially in those time of year where it gets super hot. And if you're not prepared for that and you dehydrate really quickly, you could find yourself in a really tough situation. And so we talk about that. Also cold. It snows over there. There's Obergatlinburg where you can ski. I'm not kidding. So you don't want to be out there reading the average temperature last December or January, not realizing that the average doesn't mean that day. And so you want to be able to make sure that you play the weather and the temperature correctly. The next lesson, play the ball where it lies, and making up alternative itinerary is basically try to figure out how to handle what's coming. And if you can find a way to make an alternative itinerary, good. You know, I tell the story about how whenever I was in Gatlinburg, I go to the mountain several times a year, so it's like, you know, or I did. I don't do that much anymore. I'm kind of poor at the moment. But what had happened, we were going to go first thing in the morning to Anakeesta. And, of course, we look at the map the next morning when we get up, and we realize that all that red and orange making its way across the country is going to come to us about the time we were going to go up on the mountain, which would make it miserable. So we went to the aquarium, because who cares if it rains during you're in the aquarium? I mean, unless you're in the water, obviously you're not going to do that. But, you know, inside the building, we had a ball, and it rained like crazy. And we didn't even care. You know what I mean? We were just looking around all the fish. And, of course, once we got out, the heavy part was past us. It made some little drizzle, but nothing an umbrella couldn't handle. And we made the best of it all the way up to Fanny Farkle's and got some big corn dogs. And, you know, we still had a wonderful time. By the time we got back and started making our way to Anakeesta, the sun came out. And I think it's better to be there in the evening anyway. We finished out our rest of our trip, and by the end of it, it was already dry. So we just made an alternative itinerary. You see what I mean? So we talk about that. In chapter 3 of module 3 is where we talk about intention is in the details and visualizing each day. I'm not going to ruin those by talking about them here, but they are very important. It's basically looking through and finding things on like a social media page. Like if you went to go to somewhere that you, just for example, like a really good place to eat, and then a couple hours before you're set to arrive, you get on there and you notice on their Facebook page, it says must close tonight, water main break, you know, not ready till tomorrow. And you're like, oh, they're not going to be open. You find somewhere else to be. That probably means for that whole row of restaurants, probably not going to be. So you're going to be looking for your second or third choice, and that's why the alternative itinerary is also really good. A little bit more brain work out of it, but let's face it, when it comes time to, we live in a world where maybe some crazy person went out there and blew himself up, and now the street's closed and you can't get in the restaurant anyway. And it's just like, whoa, check this out. We can't go tonight. Some guy did something crazy. And it's just like, oh, okay, well, I guess plan B. Well, you just know what plan B is. You've already established with your group. Instead of sitting around on your phones trying to make a plan B up, you've already got it because I told you to make an alternative itinerary. Now, some of you by now are saying, yeah, but you're giving away so much. I get that because I only want the right people that just really know they want this course. And let's face it, even if I say it, doesn't mean I'm saying something that was, in this course or this particular lesson doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get everything that's in that lesson just by what I say. You know what I mean? So there's still lots of information in here. All right, now in Module 4 is where we go through and we start talking about the Amish and Mennonite people. Okay, the reason I don't do anything until now is because a lot of people, they would want you to talk about this first thing because they don't care about all the rest. But if you start taking people that you really didn't want to go with, staying and eating at places you didn't really care anything about going with, by the time you get to the Amish and Mennonite people, you're so mad you're ready to just go home. And then you'll go home saying, I wish I never left. I'm never going to take another, I say that, I got a phone. We'll just pretend I'm never going to take another road trip again the rest of my life. It was so terrible, those people. It's just, and that's why most people don't go. That's why I'm trying to do this first little bit to get it out of the way so that by the time you get to the Amish and Mennonite people, now you're ready, okay? So we're going to go through the different places you can visit because I visited all the ones in Tennessee, most of the ones in the states around me, so I know a little thing or two about them. And that's all the Anabaptist groups, Mennonite and Amish. That's the reason I have this page. So I cover some of them. All right, the Amish and Mennonite people, I go through why they're Amish and Mennonite. I go through a lot of their history, how they were in Switzerland and Germany, how they came across on the boat, where they established, how they moved from state to state, all that stuff, and eventually came to Tennessee and Kentucky. Kentucky has a lot of Amish and Mennonite people too. I go through the next lesson called the car and the buggy. It's all about, I guess the first lesson has a little bit more to do with the Amish. The second one does a little bit more with the Mennonite because they vary more. And see, the Amish, even from the old order to the new order, there's not a lot of difference. Where the Mennonite people, it's everything from, I guess what most people would call a more liberal church. And then all the way on the other side is a very conservative Mennonite, even more conservative than the Swartz and Trooper Amish. So don't forget that. Like if, for example, if the Amish are here, the Mennonite communities in like Delano, Inglewood, Tellico Plains, section Alabama, those, they're even further more conservative than the Swartz and Trooper Amish. So I talk about that in here. Then I talk about the next lesson, hello, I'm happy to meet you. And that's how not to offend them, a little bit of cultural difference, how they school, how there's just a lot of things in that fourth one that'll make sense whenever you go see the community and you step foot on there. And you get out and you look, and you're looking around, and it's everything you thought it was going to be. And you're going, okay, this makes more sense after that guy in the hat and stuff in that course told me about it. I understand what I'm looking at. Some people, they just look around going, this is some Little House on the Prairie people. I don't know why they got the beards and the thing and the horse and the buggy and everybody's house is white and their buildings are red. I don't know what that's all about. You see, if you come in ignorance, you're not going to understand anything you're looking at. But if you come with knowledge, you're going to say, oh, now, wait a minute. I remember this and I know what I need to do. And that's how we come up with the notepads. Very important. You'll read that in my course. But anyway, so that's going to be meeting those people. Now, I'm going to assume that after this point, you pretty much got what you need to know, okay? But there's still the Module 5, where I call the bonus module, Tips, Secrets, and Beyond. This is where I get maybe offend some people, okay? I happen to talk about understanding the levels of security, and I hate having to cover this. But we start talking about the security of our belongings, and the security of our person. Okay, and that's because I don't want anything to happen to you while you're out. And that's where we're going to start talking about a buddy system. We're going to talk a lot about taking weapons with you, both lethal and non-lethal. Now, I'm not saying you have to do any of this, okay? I'm going to say if you're comfortable. If you're comfortable taking something with you, or you have a person within your group that's the kind of person that would be like, now get behind me. We're going to deal with this right now. You know who you are. I don't want to say a whole lot because a lot of people get really weird about this kind of stuff, but it's where we live. I mean, if your kid can go out downstairs and there's a playground out back, you don't want some weirdo trying to solicit something from them, or on the way somebody starts tailing them and then tries to convince them either monetarily or by fear to come back to their room and do something to them. You know what I mean? You're just there, you're trying to have a good time, and you think because your kids might be in their teens that somehow no, and there's cameras everywhere, there ain't some weirdo. And I'm just saying there's a lot of things that go on, and high touristy places sometimes can be where the best criminals live, okay? Not the ones that don't know what they're doing, the ones that you definitely have had a track record, just nobody's caught them yet. So we're going to talk about a lot of things in these 2 lessons, all right? The next section, a lot better mood is going to be reached. We're going to talk about road games. I have a whole bunch of printouts. You know, this clipboard right here has one of them where it talks about a vehicle preparation list. Everything from maybe a 4-year-old up to 14 or to 16, because after that they're practically adults. And I have something for each age group. Okay, so sometimes even if they're just really young and you just let them check off things or write stuff in there, depending on what you printed out, I'm going to say that you can look through the list, but there's tons of resources. I also have a certification, like you're going to get at the end of this course, you're going to have a certification for you. However, I also have a certification you can print off for every kid. So if you have, say, a lot of children, I love children. I have a preemie type show. I have an older dad show. I do other things besides this. But there's a lot of things you can print off based on what you would like your kids to do. And if you got a scavenger hunt and they fill it all out, well, you can print their certification off after they get home. And they could be so proud of it. They got this little thing, you can hang it on the refrigerator and, take a picture of them that they completed the, complete, or not, this is a complete guide to is the Amish or the Etheridge course, but this particular course called the Plainest Tennessee Road Trip. You see what I'm saying? You can say I could print their little certificate off. They could feel like they worked towards getting the certificate, and you can sign it. It's just, I don't know. I like it. I think it's a good one. No one's talking about passengers or the navigators. I'm not going to get into that one on this particular part. What to do after you get home. This is very important to me. In another lesson, I talked about creating your highlight reel, which means writing down what you're perceiving, before you even leave. And then we're going to do like a journal entry after you get home. And you're going to compare the two. Because sometimes what we perceive before we go, and then our reality trip, once we get back home, might be 2 different stories. The part you thought you might have hated happens to be one of your favorite parts. And also sharing each other's photos. You send everything to your friends that went with you. Everybody gets everybody's photos. You each get a little thumb drive. They cost next to nothing. You put all those files. Also, everything you wrote with your hand. I want you to take your little, your photo. I'm just mocking it right now. We're going to take a picture of it. You know what I mean? It's going to be in that file. Obviously, if you wrote something vindictive and bad about somebody, you might not want to do that. Be like, Jeff was an idiot the whole time, and Jeff's going to get that. He's going to be like, wait a minute, what? So don't start anything. Just keep certain things in, if you will. And then we're going to talk about a proper send-off, which is kind of what to do next. Now, I would love for you to buy another course next from me, but it might not be that you need another course from me. You might need a book. You might need something else, to kind of continue. Or you might need about 5 or 6 years before you ever do this again. And that's perfectly fine, okay? So that's going to be my kind of communication in this part, talking about whether or not you need this particular course. Now, I know I just said a lot of things that's in the course, and that's like reading off the name of a movie without watching the movie. You can't judge a book by its cover. The only way to really get into this is to take the course. Now, the reason I charge about $100 or more for a course is I also have an affiliate plugin so that I can help my fellow creators who help me. Okay, just like if you bought something like a building or a house, and the house builders came with what we would call a crew, and you said, hold on, no. I paid you to do this because I wanted to keep the price way down. And somebody's going to say, listen, I can't just make houses. I need a crew of talented individuals, and you need to pay me enough to where I could pay them so that all of us make a decent wage. And that's probably a really good way to think about something. You know what I mean? The reason we go to the good mechanics that have the lift, and have the stuff that plug into the side is because enough people paid them enough money for them to buy that equipment. And that's why they can always tell what's wrong with our car within 7 or 8 seconds. You know what I mean? That you could have never found out on your own, because they have a detailed computer that can read things. And the only way they're going to get that is if they get a sizable amount of money. I'm kind of the same way, all right? I'm going to pay other people to push my courses like this, and I want them to have some money too. So I charge enough to where I believe this is definitely worth way more than I charge for it. It's just that I don't want people that don't have as much funds to have a lower cost in hopes that I sell more of them. So I'm trying to make this up by scale. So please share this video with anybody that you think would take this information to template that information and go on road trips that are awesome the rest of their life. Okay? That's another thing you're getting. I'm not charging you $100 a month or $100 a year or $100 1,000 years. You're paying one time for this course ever. Okay? I'm going to update it. I'm going to keep it up. Some of these lessons will have more than one video associated with it, so be sure to scroll down whenever you do get done with that video, because below here, is always going to be information. So anyway, this is going to be Mike with the course here called the Plainest Tennessee Road Trip. And maybe one day I'll meet you out on the road.